My heart. Okay, let's do this. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another one of our weekly Sword Art Online videos, and today we're here to talk about Alicization, War of Underworld, Episode 8, Blood and Life. Before we get into things proper, though, I do want to give a big thank you to @ShadowSwarm999 and @BubbaLubber for sharing last week's video over on Twitter, and if you too would like to have your name shouted out in next week's SAO video, then be sure to share this video around on the internet, and then tag me @JoJo Talks Too Much over on Twitter, and I will be sure to shout your name out in next week's video. Okay, so before we start, let me pose a question to all of you. So, without using a calendar, how do you tell when an anime season is reaching the end? You can tell because all your fantasy shows, your adventure shows, and your action shows start to kill their characters off. I swear I'm noticing a trend here. Because yes, unfortunately, this episode does mark the end of a specific character. In particular, it marks the end of ELDRIE, and you know, it's fine. He was only my favorite character of this arc. It's totally fine. Who's mad? I'm not mad. Who's mad? Who said I was mad? I'm not mad. I'm furious. Yeah, again, once again, I'm upset at the death of a character. At least this time, I won't say the other show, but at least this time it's set in stone that the character is super dead. And you know what? The whole episode is ELDRIE'S episode. This is very much ELDRIE'S episode, and yeah, spoilers and total bias here, this is probably my favorite episode of War of Underworld so far, because it felt the most like, the entire episode, it begins with ELDRIE, it ends with ELDRIE. And it tells his story within this little, like, 24-minute, part, this one chapter of a much bigger story. You get to really get a feel for who ELDRIE is as a character. We see what drives him as a character, and then we see what ultimately ends him as a character. And I just thought his little mini arc in this episode of being down on himself and wanting to prove his worth, not just to the world, but mainly, specifically, to Alice, his mentor, the person who he genuinely cares for. I ship these two to the moon and back, and when I say I ship these two, I mean Alice Synthesis 30 and ELDRIE specifically, because I don't ship Alice with Kirito. It makes me really uncomfortable and actually kind of bugs me, especially since Yu-Gi-Oh went through all that work. I don't ship Alice and ELDRIE as much as I shipped Yu-Gi-Oh and Alice, because that's still the GOAT. But like ELDRIE, yeah, I just kind of, that's a good follow-up ship. But I guess it doesn't matter now because he's also dead. Fuck me. I hate it. Thanks. I hate it. I don't actually hate it. I love it. But I love that. I love it, but I hate it. You know what do you know what I mean? Does that make any sense? I feel like people are gonna know what I mean, because if you cared about ELDRIE as much as I did, you loved the character, and you hate that he's gone, but you also loved this episode because it was all about ELDRIE, and it gave him an exquisite exit. ELDRIE'S exit is one of the coolest exits on the show. It rivals Yu-Gi-Oh's exit, in my opinion. I don't think it really touches Yuki's exit from way back when, but I do think Yuki's whole character was leading up to that. Whereas I suppose Yu-Gi-Oh's character and ELDRIE'S character were also leading up to their ultimate, like, noble sacrifices, but with Yuki's it felt like everything was leading up to it because everything was catching up to her. So with I don't necessarily, Yuki's still my favorite exit in SAO, but ELDRIE is now third place. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, much like the previous two deaths that I mentioned, with ELDRIE, I was very emotional. You guys know me, I cry at the drop of a hat, so it doesn't take a whole bunch, but I had like the Hollywood tears, you know, where I'm like, I'm trying really hard not to cry, trying to keep it together, but the tears just refuse to not just drip out of my eyeballs. So I had the two sides of my face just with tears coming down, but I was trying to be all like, no, I'm fine. ELDRIE said don't cry, so I'm not gonna cry, even though I was totally crying. I don't know, his sacrifice, not only was it like a brilliant moment, but I'm also glad they didn't kill his dragon, because I love the dragons. I didn't want the dragon to go out with him. But it's also just a beautifully animated scene, like the whole like ELDRIE'S final flight, and he's using his enhanced armaments to like combat those dark creepy worm things, and they rip him to shreds. Like they straight up rip him in two. Like his legs are devoured and just destroyed, and my man's HP goes down to 0. This man's HP is at 0. He is dead. At that moment, I'm like, ah, damn, he didn't even get to finish him off. But then he has the hand push for a second. for a second I thought it was Yu-Gi-Oh! Just based off the arm. Like I was like, is that Yu-Gi-Oh? That's weird. But then you realize it's the faint memory of his mother. At least that's who I assume. Because like it was the blue sleeve. It was a blue sleeve, so it did kind of look like Yu-Gi-Oh! But I'm gonna assume it's his mom since we see her very faintly at the end, and that's like his last words is mother. But I think it's like the last moment where she spurs him on, and he feels that need to hang on for Alice, for everybody, and Eldrie just hangs on to that, like not only to the last bit of life. He doesn't have any last bits of life left. This man is going strictly off, I am Eldrie, I am an integrity knight, and I am not going to die until I know for sure that Alice is safe. And he hangs on. He goes into the negatives, which I didn't even know was possible. And he basically takes on the potential death of all the integrity knights and their troops, takes that all onto himself, goes way into the negatives, and is ultimately killed in a total blaze of glory. And I couldn't have asked for a better exit for Eldrie. I was emotional. I didn't want to see my boy go this quick. Like I said, I was like, it's only my favorite character. It's totally fine. You know, go ahead, take away my favorite character from this arc. He's not my favorite character in all of Alicization, but he's my favorite one from this arc. And you know, like I hate to see him go, but if he had to go, and he kind of did, we needed to have a big character go, and it wasn't going to be Berkuli. And I don't think they've developed Renly enough to really like make that sacrifice mean something. So it kind of had to be, I guess it could have been Fanatio, but it had to be Eldrie. So like I accept that it had to be Eldrie. I don't want him to go, and I was really sad to see him go. But if he had to go, I was okay with it. Not okay with it, but I accept it. And if he had to go out, that exit, flawless, man. I'm sorry. I know that this video is mainly just me screaming about Eldrie, but again, like I said, he meant a lot to me as a character. I wanted to see more from him. I do feel like he still had a ways to go. There was more that I felt like he could have done, but at the same time, when you really think about it, not really. Like, the only thing he really could have done is have a relationship with Alice, which we all know isn't going to happen. So I feel like, yeah, his character had sort of reached the end of his arc, and in one final move to prove to Alice that he could be his hero, baby. Like, he had that one moment. And again, like I said, the whole episode is Eldrie's episode. We start this episode with Eldrie feeling as though he failed. His troops were decimated, and he didn't live up to Alice's expectations. So by the end of the episode, he fulfills his arc. He fulfills his last character journey, and that is to prove himself to Alice. And he totally does. Like, Alice never needed him to prove himself, though. But it was really, like, not so much proving himself to Alice as much as proving himself to himself, like proving that he could have been Alice's hero, could have stood beside her as an equal, you know, not even like hero, just stood at her side as an equal. He could have, and he does in that moment. And I just feel like that whole little journey, it again, the whole episode, perfect Eldrie episode. We're never gonna get another one, so we kind of had to have this one be great, and it was. There's some SAO shenanigans in there, some fan service that's like kind of like, all right, it's not Fire Force levels of like, come on now, but it is like some fan service that you're like, okay. And even like there's a part, I was watching this on Crunchyroll, and there's a part where the subtitles like are moved up so that you could see more of the fan service, which I was like, okay, like that's kind of funny. And then there's, you know, like the typical, like, how does that work? Well, it works because technobabble. And they do explain, so you can't really be like, well, actually, it doesn't make sense, because, actually, it does. There is an explanation, it's just, it ain't necessary. With Sword Art Online, like I said, I don't really care about how the logic of the world works. I just kind of care about these characters. I want to see them through their journeys. And so, yeah, there's like some shenanigans in there, so I can't be like, this is an S-tier episode. But as an Eldrie-focused episode, it is phenomenal. And like I said, man, the animation is outrageously good. Like, you could tell whoever was working on this episode loved Eldrie. Like, they either loved Eldrie or loved their job, because, like, the animation, maybe both. The animation is stupendous. Like, it is stupidly good. It is so good, especially in Eldrie's last ride. Like, it is fantastic looking. And there's parts of this episode too where like it's just dark. Like the episode as a whole, like I gotta give credit to the director, like the episode director, or I guess maybe the series director, because like the whole series has felt dark, but this felt like particularly grim. This in the last episode at least. And I feel like that opening scene where you actually see the moment of impact for the mages who like get lit on fire from Alice. Like these witches go up in flames, man. Like it is brutal. And it's brutal because like we got a glimpse of them last episode, so you see some of those witches like literally screeching in pain, and it is grim in ways that like previous seasons of SAO just could not compare. And previous seasons of SAO ain't no slouch either. Like previous seasons have had some pretty dark stuff, you know? Like you can point to any arc of SAO and be like, this had a pretty dark moment. But like this was grim. Like this was really, really grim. And we do get a moment with, I wrote the character's name down, Ferger. He's the leader of the ogres, I believe that he referred to them as. They're more like werewolves. But he's basically the leader of like the wolf pack, we'll call them. The leader of the wolf pack. And he's the reason why Alice comes to know what the Emperor's goal is. So Ferger essentially tells Alice like that their Emperor is looking for the Priestess of Light, which we know is Alice, and the Emperor we know is Gabriel Miller. And it's this moment of Alice like sort of like speaking to this creature as though it was just another soldier. And it's another moment that I really think the direction shines through really well, because the whole episode has this, it sort of falls apart towards the end, but we'll get into it. But the episode has this sort of overall theme that both sides of this war don't really want this. Like they kind of just want to be doing their own thing. Like Ferger says, like, I just need to take you to the Emperor and my people can just go back to the way things were. We can just go back to the plains. We can go back to hunting birds and living freely. Like, we don't want this. But you forced this and you torched my people. Like, you know what they don't want, well, I shouldn't say they don't want to fight, because a lot of like the leaders of each group do want to fight. Like they want control of the human realm. Like they do want, like they want the human empire. Like they want to take over. They don't want to go back to their home. They want to take over the whole world. Like they want the power, especially that one chick who I got to admit, the head priestess chick, I'm not really feeling that character. She's a little too goofy. And when I say goofy, I mean like she's a little too insane. Like a lot of the other leaders, I can see how they are in those positions, but with her, she's like, kill them all, blah. And it's like, okay, how did you possibly attain leadership? How? Like, other than I assume she's very powerful. Like, as a leader, what are her qualities? None. I don't know how she got that position, other than maybe she's really strong and that's it. Like, that's all I can think of. Whereas characters like Ferger, or whatever his name is, the leader of the ogres, or the whatever they were, the beast people, the wolf pack, I forgot. And him I can see being a leader. The leader of the orcs I can understand. Like the other leaders I can understand how they got to where they are, but her I just don't get, because she just seems bloodthirsty and like not a great leader overall. So that I didn't totally understand. But the arc of the episode is very much that it shows you the dark sides of war, essentially, the war of Underworld, right? It shows you that not all these soldiers are like, especially on the side of like the beasts, essentially, right? Like the quote unquote like the evil ones, as far as our heroes are concerned. They're not really evil. They're just they've just lived in the outskirts for as long as they can remember, and they just that's what they do. Their king has returned, their god essentially returns and says like, hey, we're gonna go take over the human empire. And they're like, all right, I guess we're doing this now. And you can't blame them. They're not evil. They're just doing what they think is right or deserved in a lot of cases. And a lot of those characters, they don't, like I said, like they just don't seem evil. Like they're evil on paper because they're opposing the good guys and they are joining this army. But it does show you this sort of like dichotomy of like some of these characters didn't want this. most of them do. Don't get me wrong, most of the people on the other side are evil, straight up. Like the mage chick, Gabriel Miller, his henchmen, some of the leaders of the other side. But then you have other characters like the ogre guy, or not the ogre guy, the orc leader, who has like his friend get like essentially sacrificed. Like, he didn't look like he wanted any of this. And Ferger even says himself, like, my people didn't want this. And it's like, you even see like on the human side, like, they don't really want this. They just they're just trying to protect their home. Like, they don't want to be killed. Alice in particular, you could tell on her face, like, she's doing what she feels like she has to do to protect Kirito, to protect her home. But she didn't want this. Like, she regrets it. You could tell she feels bad. And I thought that part of the episode was great. It does sort of fall apart towards the end where you see like the one mage chick who's just like, nah, I'm just crazy and like sacrificing all the people. And like they make the other side seem really, really cold cut blanket evil. And I feel like that kind of flies in the face of it a little bit. I really feel like they should like lean more into like Gabriel Miller is evil, quote unquote, because he has a mission to do. But the other characters shouldn't be like, I'm evil for the sake of being evil. Like, they don't really have aspirations outside of, I want to rule the world. It's like, that's not great when the rest of the cast has like these actual motives to do what they need to do. I don't know. It's not like the episode, it kind of falls apart for me towards the end of it. But again, as an Eldrie focused episode and as just an episode showing you sort of the dichotomy between like the two forces, I thought it was really good overall. Like I said, some hiccups for sure, but overall it's really good. And like I'm gonna miss my boy, but if he had to go out, I'm glad he went out like a hero. Glad he got such a cool exit. Again, the animation in this episode is fantastic. And yeah, I don't know, I just really enjoyed this episode, even though, you know, it broke my heart. With that said, everybody, I'm gonna go ahead and give this episode a pretty strong rank of A. This is a solid A-ranked episode. Very good stuff. And on that note, everybody, that's gonna wrap up today's video. But before we take off, I wanna give a big shout out to the good folks over on Patreon, namely those in the Earl Grey tier: Calvin Atkinson, Crowbar of Irony, Dominic, Urza, Ginkotaku, No For Nothing, Maria Teresa, Mirth Mouser, Omner Garamond, Cell, Shadow Creative, Sipco Games, Somastan, Steven, Tristan, Verdon, and Westbourne Eastbred. A huge thank you to those of you who support the channel over on Patreon, and if you too would like to join the T Squadron, then be sure to check out that first link in the description to check out our Patreon page, see all the cool rewards you can get over there, as well as access to our Patreon exclusive Discord. Thanks once again for checking out today's video, everybody. If you enjoyed it, then you've probably been on the internet long enough to know what to do already, so I ain't gonna tell you, but I will say that it is appreciated. And if you are feeling stressed out today, then you go have yourself a warm cup of tea, and I will talk to you all again real soon.